I'm a 35-year-old man, married to my 33-year-old wife for 7 years. We don't have kids yet, but 2 years ago, things started to change. My wife had just embarked on a new career, and she was thriving. At first, she mentioned this guy she worked with said he was a jerk, someone she didn't enjoy being around. But over time, her complaints about him stopped, and she hardly mentioned him anymore. I didn't think much of it. I trusted her, and though our marriage wasn't perfect, I believed we were doing well. But about a month ago, I noticed something was off. She was texting more frequently, and her phone never left her side. Nights out, weekend plans, there seemed to be a lot more going on than usual. Her warmth toward me vanished, and when I tried to show affection, she pulled away. Then she started lying. Small things at first, but enough to make me uneasy. The last straw was when she packed for a business trip to Florida, and I saw a revealing swimsuit completely unlike anything she'd ever worn before. When I asked about it, she claimed it wasn't appropriate and wouldn't take it, but she did. That's when I decided to dig deeper. I had never snooped through her things in all the years we'd been together, but this time, I felt like I had no choice. In her work bag, I found a drawing someone had sketched her, like a caricature, on hotel stationery. I also found directions to her male coworkers' houses, written in her handwriting. And when I checked our bank statements, I saw that on multiple occasions, when she said she was at work, she was actually dining at restaurants all around the city. Being a private investigator by trade, I had no moral qualms about taking things further. I installed a GPS tracker in her car. The Sunday after she returned from her trip, she said she was heading to a coffee shop to work and run errands. The GPS showed she never came near the Chipotle she said she visited. When she got home, holding a Chipotle cup, she confirmed she ate there. Lie. The following Tuesday, she said she had to attend a company dinner and would be working late. But the GPS told me she left work at 3:20 p.m. and headed to a restaurant, where she stayed until 9 p.m. Another lie. Then came Saturday. We were supposed to watch my niece's tennis match at 8 a.m. She insisted on driving separately, saying she'd go to a coffee shop afterward to work. She even gave me detailed reasons why she liked that shop. I watched on the GPS as she drove straight to a Comfort Inn motel. I went there, parked in an adjacent lot, and waited until I was sure she was inside. Then, I called her. "How's the coffee shop?" I asked. "It's good," she replied. "Come down here," I said. "Let's get this over with." She met me in the lobby. Her first words, "It's not what you think. He has to work in hotel rooms because he's been caught with other girls before." I stared at her, speechless. She went on, claiming they hadn't done anything physical, that it was all innocent. I told her to get out of my car and drove away. She called 50 times before I finally picked up. I told her that if she lied to me, even once, I'd hang up. She admitted they kissed once 5 months ago, but it meant nothing. She swore they were just working. When I asked how many times they'd met in hotels, she got defensive. More lies. I called her out and hung up. She came to our houses, where I was packing up to leave. She stood in the driveway, sobbing, refusing to let me go until we talked. But every time I asked her a question, she got defensive, claiming answering would only hurt our relationship more. She lied about small details, things that didn't even seem to matter. She insists it's not romantic, that they're just friends and he's helping her with her career. She admitted their conversations had gotten inappropriate, especially when they discussed our marriage. She admitted to deleting texts, saying they weren't romantic but could be seen as flirting. She said she'd been depressed, and he helped her through it, encouraging her in her work. Part of me believes her, but another part of me feels like I'm losing my mind. After that devastating confrontation at the hotel, I felt an emotional fissure widen between my wife and me. I hadn't heard her sound that giddy since our dating days. It was surreal to witness her joy amidst the rubble of our crumbling marriage. In that moment, it struck me how detached she had become, how far removed from the woman I once knew. I confronted her about my suspicions, pressing her for answers. She admitted to some things, but firmly denied others. At that point, I was so worn down that I could hardly summon the energy to care anymore. The emotional exhaustion was all-consuming. For the next 2 weeks, I decided to go completely no contact with my wife. It was my way of gaining control over a situation that felt utterly chaotic. Silence enveloped me like a heavy blanket. It was both comforting and suffocating. A few days ago, she reached out, asking if we could talk. My heart raced as I read her message, but I steeled myself and replied, "Unless you're willing to confess everything, I'm not interested in talking." I'd grown tired of half-truths and evasions. I wanted the whole story, raw and unfiltered. Then, to my shock, she said something that made my stomach churn. "I know you wiretapped my phone." I hadn't done anything of the sort, but I let her believe it. It was easier to let her feel that I was one step ahead. I told her I already knew everything, and just needed to hear it from her directly. Her reaction was a mix of fear and defiance, and after some back and forth, she finally agreed to come over and sit down with me. When she arrived, her demeanor had shifted. Gone was the giddy laughter. Instead, it was replaced by a serious, almost somber tone. She confessed that her relationship with the other man was indeed sexual and had been ongoing for the last 6 months. My heart sank as she laid out the truth. It felt like I was being crushed under the weight of her words. I felt like a stranger in my own life as she recounted how she had booked a hotel room with him just a day before our anniversary. It was as if she had taken a dagger and twisted it deep into my heart. She didn't stop there. She confirmed that she had continued talking to him even after I caught her, insisting that he was helping her handle my questions. At that moment, I could hardly breathe. How could she be so callous? How could she betray me and then turn to her lover for support when I was the one in pain? She claimed that she had now cut ties with him for good and wanted to work on our marriage. But that confession came 6 agonizing weeks after I initially caught her in that hotel room, and I couldn't shake the feeling that her desire to reconcile was more about convenience than genuine remorse. As I sat there, I realized that the damage was irreparable. She tried to convince me that she had always planned to confess, but I couldn't help but feel like a fool for believing her. The anguish I felt was not just about the betrayal, but also about the shattered trust and the life we had built together. If you're reading this and find yourself in a similar situation, let me tell you something important. Don't let it break you. I mean it. There is so much more life waiting for you, even if it seems bleak right now. I know it feels impossible to see that when you're drowning in despair, but trust me when I say there's light at the end of this tunnel. We eventually reached the point where divorce became inevitable. The decision didn't come quickly. It took time for me to process everything. I was overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. Part of me longed for the life we had shared, the laughter, the dreams, the hopes for a future together. But another part of me recognized that those dreams were built on a foundation of lies. My heart wrestled with the idea of staying together. She wanted to keep our marriage intact, but for what reason? The betrayal felt insurmountable, and I realized that I couldn't trust her again. She had lied and gaslighted me for so long that I didn't believe a word she said anymore. In my heart, I knew I had to move on. I was all in during our marriage. I loved her deeply and would have done anything to make her happy. I remember the countless evenings I spent planning surprises for her, hoping to create cherished memories. But now, those memories felt tainted, poisoned by her infidelity. The realization struck me. I had given my all to someone who only took, someone who saw my love as an obligation rather than a gift. Once I finally distanced myself from her, clarity washed over me. I could see our relationship for what it truly was, a toxic cycle where she drained every ounce of energy and affection from me. I had become a shadow of my former self, feeling worthless and inadequate. She degraded my profession, belittled my personality, and mocked my appearance. The psychological toll it took on me was profound. It made me question everything about myself, from my career to my self-worth. But there was a silver lining. Since the divorce, my life has flourished in ways I never thought possible. My business is thriving, and I've started dating women I once thought were out of my league. I used to see myself as unattractive, largely due to how my ex-wife had made me feel. But now, it feels like a weight has been lifted. Women, beautiful, confident women, have approached me in bars, and I've found myself enjoying wonderful relationships since then. Each experience has illuminated just how terrible my ex-wife was as a partner. I made a conscious decision to cut all contact with her. There was no point in holding on to a relationship that had brought me nothing but pain. I rarely think about her anymore. The memories fade like old photographs, replaced by new experiences and connections. The divorce became contentious when she felt I was taking too much money, even though I was taking less than 50% to keep the process smooth. It was mind-boggling to think that she could feel entitled to anything after what she had done. That realization hammered home for me that I was making the right decision to get away from her as quickly as possible. During this painful journey, I lost friends. But honestly, good riddance. Those who truly cared stayed by my side, while the others made it easy for me to let go. I also lost my in-laws, which was one of the hardest parts. I had formed strong bonds with some of them, and walking away from that connection was painful. I even tried to reach out to the wife of my ex's affair partner to share my side of the story, but she never responded. I respected her decision. It wasn't her fight. If you're in the middle of something like this, my advice is to separate yourself from the situation. That's the only way you'll be able to think clearly, away from the gaslighting and manipulation. Get professional help. I went to therapy, and it made a world of difference. Surround yourself with people who love and support you. Make healthy choices, go to the gym, stay away from excess alcohol, and try to sleep. Listen to advice, but ultimately, make your own decisions. It's your life. Those first few weeks after D-Day were the darkest days of my life. But once I got through the initial heartache, things got better. I'm genuinely happy now. Every day feels like a new beginning. If you're struggling and need advice, I'm here to help. Trust me when I say, there's life, often a better life on the other side of heartbreak. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have a story you'd like to share, don't hesitate to reach out. Take care, everyone.